I'm Paramount Cyclops. Welcome to my channel. I want to discuss for a minute about the whole NPC thing going on. NPC, if you don't know, stands for non-player character, which are the characters within video games that, as the name implies, the player cannot play. They have a pre-programmed input and a pre-programmed output based upon the input that it is given. For instance, you walk up to any player that is a non-player character, an NPC in any role-playing game, JRPG, or any number of other games, and you have a dialogue tree. Depending on which option on the dialogue tree that you give it as input, the output is a pre-programmed response. Shockingly enough, that fits social justice warriors and feminists today amazingly well. Now, let me give an example. Now, this example, in order to level the playing field, I must be able to show the absurdity. So the example is going to be absurd but equal. Let me explain the example and hopefully you will understand. Let's say that this is a feminist video game. Every person from the directors to the coders to everybody involved in the video game is a staunch feminist. So this video game is a game where you walk around, you talk to players, and you have discussions, and they give you discussions about topics important to feminists and social justice warriors. You come up to a NPC, a dialogue tree pops up, you give it input. Hey, how are you? It pops up and it says, well, I would have been better if 3 in 1 women weren't raped. And it quotes some study with a link that you can go see to some book that was written in who knows when by who knows who with some small sample size and some sort of a weird math thing going on here and mutually exclusive statistics, and you know the drill. And you look at that response, 3 in 1 women will be raped in their lifetime, and you say, but 3 in 1 women is mathematically impossible. You don't have that input option, and the computer, the NPC, does not have the output option. So no matter how many statistics and facts that you have, you cannot give it the input and it will not create the output. Now, let's roll that into real life. We'll pick any number of the statistics that they love to try to throw at you that are absolutely false. And no matter how many times you debunk them, it persists. The wage gap, for instance. The wage gap, we know, is mostly attributed to the choices women make. Women tend to pick jobs that are more emotionally rewarding and gives them more time for family and job relationship. A little more even. Good for them. That's probably why they live longer. They care more about themselves. It should be an example. I believe that's probably the correct way to go, balance work-life. But in the reality that we live in, someone has got to earn some mass money, and men traditionally and statistically, even today, tend to work jobs that are more financially rewarding and yet sacrifice personal freedoms and personal health. And it pays more. Choice. So much for women having their own choices. But then again, when it's a bad choice, that's when the feminists want to blame everybody else. Anyways, moving on. No matter how many times you give them the same statistics, the proven ones, the ones that say, no true economic actually will quote this and say, yeah, this is a fact. No. 1, there are too many variables. 2, you cannot take the whole of one sex and the whole of the other sex and lump them all together and say, here's how much the men make, here's how much the women make, and women make less. No, the women make different choices. They make choices that benefit themselves emotionally, so they can spend more time with their family. Nothing wrong with that. If that's what they choose, let them have it. That's fine. Nothing in the world wrong with it. It's a choice. But no matter how much input that you give them, they still give you the same output. So their dialogue tree literally would have a blank spot on it where you could put any input you so choose. But no matter what input you put there with facts and logic and reason, the output from the NPC would be the same. So it is a very accurate description. A very accurate description on the bright side. NPCs can be reprogrammed. And we can reprogram the NPCs in the real world today by using truth, logic, and reason, and not shying away from the debate and trying to stay as academic and logical as possible and not get drawn into those personal attacks. I know it is hard. I still do it to this day. I comment quite frequently on YouTube, and sometimes something totally misandrist will come out of someone's mouth, and it makes you feel like the world's misandry is so ingrained in our society that people don't even know that they're misandric. Misandry is everywhere, and it sometimes gets my goat. But I try to remain as academic and fact-based as possible and logical, and I try to listen to dissenting opinions as much as possible and weigh their evidence against my evidence, which is important. We must all remember to weigh our own evidence just as much as we weigh our opponent's evidence. That is the only way that you're going to defeat them, is with logic and reason, and letting them know that you are hearing them, and then tearing apart the bad parts of their arguments with reason, truth, logic, and fact. In the end, truth will prevail. It always has. As Winston Churchill said, Americans will always do the right thing, even if it is at the very last minute. Thank you for listening. Stay academic, and don't shy away from the conversation. I look forward to reading any comments, any dissenting opinions, any criticism you may have. I read it all. Thank you.